Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe so that not to miss new episodes. Today, we will talk about Oleg the Prophet, the Prince of Kievan Rus, who almost without a fight was able to bring Constantinople to its knees. Because of the insult that Leo the Wise inflicted on him with his trade policy and his general disrespect for the Kievan Rus, Prince Oleg made one of the greatest campaigns to Constantinople across the sea and ocean, which was immortalized in a modern history and made Leo the Wise pay for his audacity. As a sign of his great victory, and also as a reminder that none should express irreverence for the Kievan Rus, Prince Oleg nailed his shield to the gates of Constantinople. We will talk about all this in today's video, but let's start from the very beginning. Shortly before his death, Prince Rurik of Ladoga transferred all power to Oleg, who was to be the regent prince of the Varangians until Rurik's son Igor came of age. And although the actual power passed entirely to Oleg, he still had to nominally cover himself with the will of Igor. Shortly after the death of Rurik, Oleg went on a campaign against Kievan Rus, which was ruled by the Bard princes Askold and Dir. Oleg cunningly lured his brothers out of the city, told them that Igor would now be the prince of Kievan Rus, and cynically killed them. And since the actual princes were killed, the city of Kiev surrendered without a fight. After that, Prince Oleg actively took up the development of the city and the management of his principality, although he was oppressed by the prophecy of the Magi, who told Oleg that he would not live to a ripe old age and would die from his own horse. At the same time, soon the Byzantine authorities began to hinder trade relations with Kievan Rus. The goods of merchants from Kiev were crushed and thrown into the sea. The news of this reached Prince Oleg, and the reaction was immediate. Oleg called together the troops of all the nationalities living in the territory of his state under one banner, and it was decided to go on a campaign against Byzantium to restore justice. The preparation of the army, ships, provisions, and equipment for a long campaign immediately began. The last step was the blessing of the Magi, after which everything was ready. And so, the troops of the Prince of Kiev set off on the ships. A huge number of ships crossed the Dnieper River. The road was very long and difficult. Sometimes, in order to pass the rapids of the Dnieper, it was necessary to drag the ships on wooden blocks across the land. In addition, there were often ambushes by the Pechenegs on the way, for whom a series of ships were a good target for attacks from the shore. And when the Dnieper River was crossed, the next stage was the journey across the Black Sea. Storms and giant waves hindered Prince Oleg's ships. However, soon on the horizon in the morning fog, the features of the majestic city of Constantinople were visible. And so, when it seemed that Prince Oleg's troops had finally reached their destination, the Byzantine troops, seeing a huge number of enemy ships, resorted to cunning. They raised a giant metal chain which completely blocked the way for the Kiev troops to Constantinople. Prince Oleg was not ready for such a surprise. It seemed that the campaign was already doomed to failure. But at this moment, Prince Oleg showed his engineering genius and figured out how to outwit the Byzantines. It was decided to pull the ships ashore and build a mechanism to attach the wheels to the ships. Thus, using sails as engines, Prince Oleg's ships would be able to reach the walls of Constantinople. Few believed in his idea, but nevertheless, it was implemented. And after the completion of the engineering work, Prince Oleg's ships were on wheels, raised their sails, and went on the attack. A huge cloud of dust rose from under the wheels of his flotilla, and his troops were relentlessly approaching the walls of Constantinople. Kiev archers relentlessly fired arrows at the defenders of Constantinople right on the walls. And very soon, under the psychological pressure from previously unseen ships on wheels and continuous attacks, panic began among the defenders. The Byzantine side was unable to defend itself in any way, and a decision was made to surrender. A delegation of officials came out of the city gates, holding white banners in their hands. The battle was over. Negotiations began. As a sign of personal insult, Prince Oleg poured the wine offered to him on the floor and voiced his demands for further relations to the Byzantine side. As a result, a peace treaty was concluded, trade was carried out on terms favorable to Kievan Rus, and tribute in the form of gold and precious materials was paid. The campaign brought the desired results. After that, Prince Oleg arranged a banquet under the walls of Constantinople with his soldiers. And as a sign of his power and a lesson for the future for the Byzantine authorities, Oleg personally nailed his shield to the gates of Constantinople. Thus, he immortalized his victory. The long journey home began. Ships under sails of expensive materials set off. Soon they reached the port in the city of Kiev, where Prince Oleg and his troops were greeted as heroes. Having learned about the incredible victory of the Kiev troops, the Magi decided to call Prince Oleg the Prophetic. And it was well-deserved. The sharp mind, brilliant engineering skills, and military tactics of Prince Oleg were unprecedented. After that, the celebration of the grand victory began, during which Oleg was informed that his old horse had died. Wanting to visit his faithful companion for the last time, Prince Oleg set off on a journey to the place where the remains of his horse were buried. Prince Oleg approached the remains of his faithful friend, stood for a while and touched his horse's skull with his foot. And then a snake appeared from the pupil of the skull and instantly bit Oleg on the leg. He could not be saved. But being on his deathbed, he remembered his old prophecy. He was buried in a mound with all the honors. This ended the story of the glorious campaign. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories.